So good morning. Welcome again to Keya Speaks. I am Keya. I want to thank everyone for being out here today, listening to us and viewing this video. Today we have the Secretary of Education for the state of Virginia, Atif Qarni, with us today. Thank you so much for being with us and definitely sharing with us during this pandemic any information that you would have. So please tell us who Atif Qarni is.
Yes, we're good to talk to everyone. Thank you, Shakia, for having me on your show today. Really hoping that everybody's doing well throughout this pandemic, staying safe and healthy, really following the advice of the health experts as they're advising us to stay home and really practice good, responsible social distancing. As Secretary of Education, I've been in this position for a little bit over 2 years. And my role is to advise the governor on the variety of policy and budgetary decisions that he makes related to education. In my secretariat, I have different agencies like the Department of Education. So we provide oversight to 132 school divisions in Virginia. So the 132 public school divisions makes up about 1.2 million students in K through 12. We also have some students in our public preschool settings. And then I also have the Virginia Community College system is 23 community colleges in my secretariat and 16 universities, public universities, along with our public museums and our Library of Virginia. I don't actively work with our public libraries, the 700 public libraries, but through Library of Virginia, we administer the state funds that goes out to the 700 libraries. So it's a big secretariat, and then we have a variety of commissions that the governor has formed that are under my secretariat as well. So that's what I do.
Oh, wow. You're a busy man. That's what it sounds like.
A little bit, yes.
And so how has COVID-19 affected your role, and what are the challenges you're facing during this time?
Right. So with COVID-19, obviously it had a big impact on schools. In about a week into the crisis in Virginia, we had our first positive ID on March 7th. On March 13th, about 6 days in, the governor announced that he was going to close the schools out for 2 weeks. That gave us time to assess and really consult more with the health experts to see what we were going to do. So we were the second state to announce a closure for the remainder of the academic year. It was a very tough decision. Over the weekend, before he made the announcement, we had numerous conversations with health experts to see, okay, well, if that's the right approach, and that was the right call, because as we're looking at the models and as we're looking at how this is spreading, because it's such a contagious virus, and not only that, it's a novel virus. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of unknowns. So health experts are still trying to figure out, okay, if it's seasonal, and they're still looking at the data because it's so new and we don't have a vaccination developed. That is why the governor made the right call to close out for the academic year. It did open up new challenges for schools because there's a lot of unknowns and uncertainty on what are we going to do. What are we going to do with the instruction that's being interrupted at the end of this year? When we do open up, what does that look like? How do we process? How do we take our processes and make sure that they are equitable? So our universities, our schools, our daycare centers, everybody through early childhood settings to K-12 and higher ed and our community colleges is grappling with that. So one of the things that in my role I've done is we've formed a response and recovery work group to bring everybody together and communicate on what they're going through and plan things out, because it's going to be a long process that we anticipate when we do open up. How do we get things back to normal, a new normal? It's going to be a long process, but I remain hopeful and optimistic that we're going to come out of this better and stronger.
Absolutely. And so I noticed, I've been watching a lot of news, of course, and so I noticed in like New York, where and Boston, I think is another area where they really banded together. What innovation, or does Virginia have plans to partner with big business to meet some of these deficiencies in order to improve, what's happening in the community now? Because now it's not just a school issue, it's now community-based because our children are at home learning.
Right. That's a great question. And right away when the pandemic started, we anticipated these inequities. Mm-hmm. So a variety of providers, internet providers, they're like, we're going to give low rates or free access for our most underserved and most vulnerable communities. We're working to make sure that, folks don't get evicted, whether they're renting or they don't have to default on their mortgage payments, for example. A lot of businesses have stepped up, and a lot of community organizations have stepped up to donate laptops and technology. As a matter of fact, just before I got on the call, I was putting something on social media about students who have nonprofits who have stepped up to donate laptops to families in need. A lot of organizations, whether it's religious organizations or nonprofits, have stepped up to address food insecurities. A lot of food banks. So we have regional food banks in Virginia. We have a really robust food bank, like Feed More, for example. I'm not sure if they stretch out to your region.
I feel familiar.
Right. So we have regional food banks to address all the needs of the different food deserts that exist in Virginia. So they've really stepped up, and folks are delivering meals. One of the things, the best thing that I've seen in the K-12 space is our school nutrition program.
Yes.
So we got about 12 waivers from the USDA in giving as much flexibility for our schools. So we have school nutrition workers in about 1,200 sites across Virginia, and they're providing about 250,000 meals every day to families, and that's really, really helping. So we've seen a lot of folks really step up. So that's really, really great to see. It's really great to see that human beings are so willing to help each other. That's really neat to see that.
Right. And through my role with communities and schools of Hampton Roads, I was getting calls like that Friday, like, how are they going to feed the kids? And what is the plan? And so everything was pretty quiet and pretty silent. And then, like you said, everyone stepped up in a major way, and we were able to get resources through the school nutrition programs. So that was a huge benefit. And I know that a lot of families are taking advantage of it because it does help out. So one other question that I have is, and so through the Virginia Department of Education, I've noticed that you've given a lot of leeway, as to what school systems or districts could do in terms of whether they do a pass-fail or if they could go to summer school. And so do you think any uniformity would ever happen, or where it be mandated, from a higher level to where we're all on the same page? Because again, I worry about those inequities, whereas one district might do a pass-fail, someone else may be actually giving grades or giving them the opportunity to recover through summer school programs. So what are your thoughts on that?
Right. So before the pandemic started, I had addressed the superintendents on looking at the best practices and models for grading, because our grading systems are antiquated, they're really outdated. Some of the school divisions, though, in Virginia have adapted good grading models based on good evidence, which are innovative, not only innovative, but also more effective. And reflect on what a student really, is getting and understanding and comprehending in their education careers. So with because of all these inequities exist also outside of grading and so forth, it's actually better to give more autonomy and flexibility to school divisions rather than do a statewide mandate. It's always been my belief that we want to not micromanage school divisions too much, because local communities really know best on how to run their school divisions, and what happens in Hampton is very different than what happens in Richmond, and what happens in Fairfax, and what happens in Smith County, and so forth. So it's unfair for the state to come in and really do mandates unless it's absolutely necessary. So one example is obviously closing out for the academic year. In some of the rural parts of the Commonwealth, they're like, well, we don't have a lot of identified cases. Why are we closing out for the entire school academic year for the whole state? But collectively, it's a safety issue, it's a health issue. So we felt like we needed to have a state, mandate for that. So there are instances where the state does need to step in. As far as grading, constitutionally speaking, it is a local decision, but we do give guidance. So we're on so VDOE, I work through the VDOE. If I have my opinions, our state superintendent and his team is very good about getting a feedback from everyone, and then they put out a guidance. So they've done that on what grading should look like through this process. We do not want to hold students accountable for instruction they're not receiving in an equitable way. It's unfair to do that. There are challenges to both things. Whether you maintain the regular letter grade, there's pros and cons to that. Whether you do a pass and fail, there's pros and cons to that. So if a student, for example, is applying for a certain college program, they might choose to do a grade, keep their grade rather than a pass and fail, because pass and fail on a transcript may not seem right. But having said that, we're also advising the divisions to give the student the flexibility to have a choice on what they want to do. And we're also working with our Virginia universities, both public and private. To keep in mind is that students are going through a unique time. So they need to give flexibility on grades. As they analyze the transcripts, they need to be very careful and mindful and thoughtful. They need to be very thoughtful about if students are taking different types of exams, whether it's AP tests or SATs and so forth, that those will be impacted. So that's why that earlier that I mentioned, that group that's coming together is bringing everybody together in the entire education continuum, so everybody can talk to each other about the challenges they're facing and what they're seeing. In that group, I've also engaged different associations. So PTA is going to be engaged in that, or education association is going to be engaged in that, or administrators and a variety of other groups. Special education parents will be on there, and experts will be on there. So we can talk to each other and say, look, we don't want to have a negative impact on our students through our outdated grading systems or our too much emphasis on testing. As a whole, even outside of the crisis, we should be looking at the whole child, the whole profile of the child. But especially in this case, we need to be more mindful of that.
Absolutely. And so my last question would be, what is the encouragement you would give to parents, students, teachers, anybody in the education field during this time that really just needs an encouraging word?
Sure, absolutely. We have to remain optimistic and hopeful. Society is full of, I'm a historian, a history teacher by trade, and having studied different eras of history, civilizations go through different crises and they come out strong through them, and there are lessons learned. So yes, we're going through this pandemic, we're in the middle of it. There's a lot of anxiety on what's going to happen, but we will come out of this strong. What I encourage folks, students and families, is to learn through these lessons on how we can plan for the future. If we, God forbid, if we have other crises like this, that we plan for them better. And then also, this also allows us an opportunity to really reflect on our society and how we can do a better job as a society to help our most vulnerable people, because there's a lot of people who are facing unemployment because of this crisis. There are a lot of folks who are homeless, and they're we have to serve them better to see how we can address homelessness and poverty in general. There's a lot of folks who are elderly who are also vulnerable, and how do we support them better, support our nursing homes. So we really reflect on how we can help each other and rely on each other. So that's really, really important. And when we come out of this, our economy, yes, we're going through a recession, it will bounce back. The different interruption in education that's occurring, we will make that up. We can, but we have to focus on safety and health first, because we can bring back lives. So that's why that has to be at the forefront of everything. So I encourage everybody to remain safe and healthy, practice good social distancing. Once we get through this, we will have a phased approach where we'll bounce back and we will reconstruct and be better and stronger. So I look forward to that. That working with everybody across Virginia to really rebuilding even a better Virginia. So thank you so much for having me on today. This was great.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time, or I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. I can't wait to meet you in person. COVID has not allowed it to happen, but I look forward to meeting you in person here in the near future. And I look forward to all the great things that are going to come out of Richmond during this time and after this time. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Secretary Qarni.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.